I'm Jack as a mimic, and you're watching Jackass. All it took was a few levels and a better weapon, able to take down the Erdtree Sentinel. And our reward is the Golden Halberd. One interesting thing to note about the Golden Halberd is that we see a spiral at the top of the Golden Halberd. So spirals is something that is very important to Elden Ring. Weighty halberd forged of gold. Gold is generally a very flimsy material in real life, but in Elden Ring, gold has a lot of strength. Wielded by the Order of Tree Sentinels, heavily equipped knights, deals holy damage, a masterfully crafted weapon that lives up to its heft, but it's difficult for one of mere human strength to wield, and it gives us Golden Vow, skill passed down from antiquity among the knights of the capital. Raise armament aloft and pledge honor to the Erdtree in battle, granting self and nearby allies increased attack power and defense. So the Order of the Tree Sentinels comes from the capital, and they honor the Erdtree in battle. He's Order of the Tree Sentinels, heavily equipped knights, and he has more than mere human strength. So he's more than human, and he's an ally of the Erdtree. And he's ally from the Erdtree from the capital, which is far away. Godric is stationed here, and he has the tree and beast on his surcoat. But we don't know what his relationship to the capital is at the moment, whether he's for or against them. He could be for the capital and merely just stationed out here. So we have an order of Tree Sentinels who are loyal to the capital out in Godric the Grafted's wasteland. In the last episode, I also forgot to look at the map items. Maps also have lore. Map of the western region of Limgrave. Why is this place called Limgrave? It sounds like it's a grave for limbs. Maybe we'll learn what that means in the future. My prophetic powers are really manifesting. The Depths of Limgrave. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that word right, but it means land attached to a manor and retained for the owner's own use. Possession of real property in one's own right. So that means someone owns this land. Far south of the Erdtree, is bordered to the northwest by the cliffs of Stormvale, and under its ever-clouded skies roll the great steeps of the Pale Lands. The fact that these are called Pale Lands means that this is even though we could see the Erdtree off in the distance and we have its golden flowers, this land is called Pale. So it must not be getting its gold and luster that closer to the Erdtree must have. So we saw this character in the intro slides, and if you watch the story trailer, this is the storyteller. Before we talk to them, let's take our telescope and take a look. It's interesting that we teleported here and it immediately turned to nighttime. She has 4 arms. Let's get a better look from the front. She has woven feet, so she isn't actually a person. She's a doll of some sort. She's cracked. Her hat kind of looks like a glowing mushroom. She has a fur coat. Are her hairs in braids? I don't know if... No, her hair isn't braided. And she has one spiritual side and one not. And the nose and the mouth look different. So the spirit attached to this doll-like thing is not the same as the physical body. It also has blue hair. So let's see what she has to say.
Pleasure to meet thee, Tarnished. I am the witch Renna. I'd heard tell of a tarnished hurtling about atop a spectral steed, and upon looking into the matter, the talk I surmise is of thee. Thou art possessed of the power, no? To call forth a spectral steed named Torrent.
So she knows a lot about us, but what's interesting here is that we are given the option to lie to her, this witch named Renna, who looks like a spirit attached to a doll, wearing her witch's mushroom hat. But we're going to actually lie to her because it sounds like she has spies out there, and I want to see what she says if we don't tell her the truth.
Trifle not with me, Tarnished. Or didst thou merely forget the name of the spectral steed thou callest?
So it looks like she knows that we have Torrent. So she's asking if we forgot, like we're idiots, or if we're just playing games with her.
Thee again. Thou art possessed of the power, no? To call forth a spectral steed named Torrent.
I'm going to continue to lie to her.
Quite the stubborn one, aren't we?
Very stubborn.
Wise in a way. The lands between
Oh,
are home to lies
it's
and
wise
cheats
to
aplenty.
be stubborn
Perhaps
and
thy
not
man
believe
owns
everything
trust.
you see or hear.
Be to thy benefit. I
Yes.
shall leave this for thee. At the behest of
And she's
Torrent's
still
former
going to
master.
reward us
Take it.
something for Torrent's former
Shouldst
master.
thou overcome thy suspicion.
And she dissipates in a kind of more star-like dust. It's different than the glow that our friend Melina comes into. So this is a gift to us, given to her, on behest of Torrent's former master. But I'm not so sure if we can trust her. She said it was wise for us not to trust people, so let's see what she gave us. Spirit Calling Bell and the Lone Wolf Ashes. So Torrent's former master must have used the Spectral Steed Whistle, which is delicate goldwork ring. But this bell looks silver. It also has that blue mist that is similar to what our friend Renna the Witch just dissipated with, Melina and her gold dust, and when we summoned Torrent. A bell capable of summoning various spirits from ashen remains. Spirits can only be summoned within the vicinity of a rebirth monument, so there are monuments for rebirth within the world. And this is actually a different script than the cipher that we saw of the whetstone. If we look at the whetstone again, we could see that it has this kind of like elvish-looking language written on there. When I say elvish, I'm talking about Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. Compared to this one, kind of a lot of sharp lines. It's very runic. Kind of looks like Nordic runes. We have to be near a rebirth monument, so these spirits are being reborn in some way. Looks like there's a little bit of spirals on the handles of this as well. Only one type of spirit may be summoned at once, and none may be summoned during multiplayer. So we're summoning spirits from ashen remains. I think she says, I don't know if she says it in this dialogue or if we actually tell her the truth, but these are ashes unreturned to the Erd Tree. So we know that a true death is being returned to the roots. These are ashes that haven't been returned to the roots, and their spirits are still attached to it. We can also see on the spirit summoning that the runes are the same. The Lone Wolf Ashes. Ashen remains in which spirits yet dwell. Spirits of wolves chased from their pack. They later encountered a nameless Tarnished, who welcomed them as hunting companions. The wolf spirits overwhelm enemies with their agility, aiding the summoner in combat. So these wolves met another Tarnished before us. They perished. Then they were cremated, and now we could summon their spirits. So curious to if we learned anything more about that Tarnished that these wolves are with. And they were chased off from their pack, so maybe that Tarnished was too. Now we forgot to talk about this item in the last episode. A large knife used for throwing. Its curved blade is sharp enough to slice flesh cleanly. Throw at enemies to inflict damage and build up onset of blood loss. This heavy throwing weapon is unsuitable for swift attacks, but is able to inflict heavy damage. I forgot to bring this up when we first talked to Renna. I'll show this in some overlay footage from somewhere else. But there's actually a purple or pink sleep mist that comes by and puts Kali to sleep. But he doesn't seem to notice. With our runes, let's buy the crackpots. And let's buy the notes. And let's buy a torch. And you know what? We'll buy a better shield too. We don't have a good shield. One of the interesting gameplay features that's actually going on right now is that there's these golden leaves that are coming down from the Erd Tree, and it gives us more runes when we fight people. So there's a connection there. So we could see that the power of the Erd Tree allows for an additional rune gain. Runes that weren't already there being multiplied in some way. Agheel Lake North. So if you looked on our map, this must be Agheel Lake. Maybe we'll learn why it's called Agheel Lake. Here we are, bird's eye telescopes. Oh. Oh. I hear something. Let's go see what it is.
You? Yeah, you there. Stop pretending you can't see me. What'd you go and do that for?
So this guy was turned into a tree. Kind of looks like a little monkey man with clothes on.
Oh, yes. I remember. Some clod turned me into a tree. You were just breaking the spell, weren't you? Thank you. The name's Bok. I was pushed out of the cave. Told not to come back. Not ever. Then I ended up as a tree. Lucky you came along, really.
So he was pushed out of his cave for not belonging, and then somebody turned him into a tree. Trees are important in the world of Elden Ring, so it's interesting that someone would turn him into a tree. I wonder who did that. I don't know if we actually will find out who turned Bach into a tree, or why they would choose a tree specifically. You know, who has the power to transform people like that?
Oh, what a shame. When they threw me out of the cave, they took everything I owned. And so this is all I have to express my thanks. I hope you can forgive me.
And we like mushrooms.
Or, well, if you can afford to wait for a while, I could sneak back into the cave and bring back something of actual value. Well, then I'd be of some real use to you, I reckon. Right, but I'll need a moment. I'm frightened of them, so I have to gather myself. My knees start knocking, just thinking about that god-awful cave on the shore.
So if we look at our map, here's the shore. When we were here before earlier, there was a troll or a giant walking up there, and we said, we'll come back here when we feel stronger, and we'll come back here at a later date. But just by looking at the map, we could see that here's the shore he's talking about. He's giving us hints to where he's going to go next. So Elden Ring isn't mean when it comes to giving you hints about where to go. He told us where to go, and we'll come back later. And thanks for our map. We'll be able to see who he is. He's the demi-human Bach. So demi meaning either half size, or partial, or an inferior degree. So he's supposed to be a partial or inferior human, which doesn't seem right. There's also demigods, which is, not fully a god. And there was also an item kind of luring us to go to him, and that's an arterial leaf. So far out of the flora that we've found in Elden Ring, we have raisins that grow from shrubs, we have flowers that grow from Erd tree leaves, we have these mushrooms that have spongy flesh, we have these evergreen leaves that give off a pale light, and now we have these arterial leaves, dark red leaves with thick swollen veins. This should make us think of the weirwood trees from Song of Ice and Fire, if you remember, I think from our second episode. They're exceedingly rare to find. A faint pulse can be felt in the vein, so there must be blood, actually. Yeah, it stirs the blood, providing an enlivening effect. So these leaves actually have blood in them. We're actually going to go towards the north and look at that. Oh, which way should we go, actually? I think the way the game wants you to go is to explore south. Yeah, I think we're going to go south. See what happens this way. I think we're going to go all the way south. But first, actually, let's look at our bird's eye telescope. This is what we came here to do. We can see Agkiel Lake with some destroyed ruins there. That actually looks like a town more than this does. I mean, I guess they could kind of both look like towns. I don't know. That tower really gives me kind of military presence. So maybe this was maybe this was military too, because of the tower. More of those destroyed ruins. Maybe there's a cave right there. We can look up towards Stormvale Castle, where the demigod Godric the Grafted is. Looks like there was some artillery or something, or fighting that happened at the castle. There's the Stormgate ruins. We could see some stonework in the ground in the middle there, more of the fallen Sky Temple. This bridge, more up here. There's actually something glowing. It's probably trying to pull us to that direction to go look at it. See the Erd tree. See the forge in the distance. We're not supposed to know what it's a forge yet, but we know. This area, if we go up this area, we can go around here and then cross over. You can really, these bird's eye telescopes really give you like a lay of the land of like all the places you can go. Shows that you can go all the way up there to this region. You can't really tell what's going on there yet. Shows that you can go over here and cross over and go to this region, where there's this forest and the tree. But we are going to go south down this path. Maybe go over here. And try and finish up over there. Maybe go to that island over there. Actually, we might just go around and down. We'll see where the wind takes us. So we took a detour to kill the Kaiden sellsword because we wanted to get his lore item so we can learn who he is. He is, obviously, a Kaiden sellsword. These hulking, fearless mercenaries, said to hail from the mountaintops of the wintry north, are adept at fighting on horseback. Kaiden is the name of their home settlement. So their home settlement is in the wintry north, where there should be a lot of horses, and that they fought horseback there. And it's also interesting that there's sellswords in this area because Godric has his knights. So Godric's army is in a state where he needs to hire sellswords in order for him to maintain power over this region in some way. So that doesn't bode too well for Godric. And we might know why if we look at this sword monument. These giant swords. I wonder who put these here. Oh, you know what? I think we get an answer in the DLC who put these here. My prophetic visions are coming through. And this inscription on here may be done after the fact, that these swords may have been here first, and then the inscription was put into them. So who knows if the swords were put here first, how old these swords are based on what we see later in the game. Especially how huge they are. Who would use all this stone to make something like this? Godric the Golden humiliated. So we know that Godric is actually named Godric the Golden, not Godric the Grafted. And he was humiliated, having tasted defeat by the blade of Mikola, now on his knees begging for mercy. So the blade of Mikola was here, and our first item that we picked up was the Bewitching Branch. Tree branch blessed with an incantation of unalloyed gold, the Empyrean Mikola is loved by many. Indeed, he has learned very well how to compel such affection. But it looks like that Mikola and Godric might not be too keen on each other because his blade fought with Godric. We're getting a lot of interesting things happening. You forget all the stuff that they show you early in the game. So lightning comes down, golden lightning, and we get these items, Fulgur Bloom. So Fulgur is Latin for lightning, so this is just lightning bloom. That makes sense. Please excuse the lightning sounds. Yellow flower that grows in lightning-struck lands, imbued with traces of lightning's essence, and it's gold, so perhaps this lightning comes from the Erd tree. It's like there's no clouds here, so why is it happening here? We also picked up a beast liver, fresh liver of a beast, a luscious fruit of life, dried liver boosts damage negation. We know that the blood of beasts has gold traces in it, and gold is what's giving us life, so this is most likely why that's a luscious piece of life, because of the gold hidden with it. I just wanted to make a note that we could see that there's a troll up there, and the rule for the playthrough kind of right now is that we don't feel strong enough to be able to fight those guys, so we're kind of going in areas that they don't exist. I got a little sidetracked fighting some of the Kaiden sellswords because I wanted more of their items, so we're just going to go into this camp. We're kind of letting the game take us where it does. We see that the Kaiden sellswords have some ability to tame wolves. We caught this guy sleeping. What do they say? Lovable sword? Yeah, but I need flasks. And we get our first Armorer's Cookbook. A record of crafting techniques left by an armorer who served the Great General Radahn. Ooh, the Great General Radahn. Contains knowledge of dealing with rot, the application of fire in particular. Okay, so let's see what we learned from this. Cured animal liver, dried out after pickling in red medicinal solution. We can see that there's a little bit of fire in it. Temporarily boosts fire damage negation. That makes sense. We also get fire pots, throw at enemies to inflict fire damage, and fire grease. Solidified grease made from a mixture of incendiary materials. Coats ornament, adding fire damage. And that is made out of root resin and smoldering butterflies. So it looks like, I guess, the grease base is from the resin of the roots. And then by adding these smoldering butterflies that are like unending kindling, do we actually get the fire effect? Yeah, it looks like by mixing either mushrooms, the flesh of a mushroom, and fire, you get an unending fire bomb. The root resin in a butterfly, you get the fire grease. And beast liver, roa fruit, and butterfly. we're trying to see if there's anything interesting to come out of our crafting books. It's also interesting that there was an armorer here for General Radahn, so maybe that means General Radahn, the great General Radahn, was in this area before moving to where he did.
Me? I'm searching for my purpose, given to me by my mother inside the Erd Tree, long ago, for the reason that I yet live, burned and bodiless. There is something for which I must apologize. I've acted the Finger Maiden, yet can offer no guidance. I am no maiden. My purpose was long ago lost.
So Melina doesn't know what her purpose was. It's long lost. She's acting as a finger maiden, but she can't offer any guidance. She's no maiden, so she lied to us. So Renna the Witch was right that people will lie to us. Her mother gave her her purpose, and her mother was inside the Erd Tree, but this was long ago, and she doesn't know why she's burned and bodiless. So most likely the reason why we're taking her to the Erd Tree is so she can learn her purpose. So as of now, she doesn't know what's going on. It's kind of interesting. We could kind of tell where the game wants us to go. It shows us to the right, giant monsters pulling a thing, and then to the left, it shows just some weak guys with spears. So I think it's trying to say, this is the intended place for you to go. So we're going to try and just follow where the game wants us to go. And fighting those guys, we got the foot soldier cap. Flanked iron cap, widely issued to foot soldiers in a lord's army. So that's just going to that's just kind of telling us that none of these guys are too distinguishable for individuals. They could be replaced with anyone from any army. So these are scarabs, but I think they're supposed to be mimicking like dung beetles, and you can tell what type of dung they have by what they're rolling up. Where they were bin based on the color of the dung that they're rolling up. We got an Ash of War previously from one of the dung beetles, from one of the scarabs, and then what we got was Determination, a knightly skill. So I think it's supposed to be telling us that it's kind of rolling up the dung from knights who live there. You know, it might sound a little gross, but I think it's, you know, maybe the dung holds some residual memories, Ash of War, that you wouldn't normally find. That was the camp that we were at earlier, and we can see that there's white wolves and then one of those roses statues, and then a little spirit spring for us to jump down. Oh, and another scarab. That's going to explode. Oh, and our first armor smithing stone for our items. So, unlike regular smithing stones, which have a little gold inlaid with them, the somber smithing stones are all white. It's a smithing stone drained of color. Special armaments with unique characteristics cannot be strengthened with colored smithing stones. Number of steps and amount strengthened differed from standard equipment. So you have to use colorless. And we had those silver fireflies before, which, silver isn't really colorless, but maybe there's something connected between them. And we're coming up on a site of grace and a nice little house. I think I want to upgrade our weapon, then we'll come back here. But this is the artist shack, and this is our first painting. Homing Instinct. So we want to look for Homing Instinct painting. Work of a wandering artist, reminiscent of a painting titled Homing Instinct. The painter is said to have captured the landscape seen during the last moments of those welcome into death's embrace. So the painter died when he was painting this. The soul of the painter and the vestiges of the dead's last moments can be discovered by visiting the location depicted now. So he died painting in that area, and I guess someone brought the painting back. So we're looking for an archway with a tree, and there was a church or something, or building in front of it. That one's actually over there. So we can go look at that painting when we get to there. We're not going to jump down the cliff to see it, though. Gold's Tinged Excrement. Let's find where it leads. And it leads us to some bears. It's very interesting how Elden Ring tries to pull you with the items on the ground. You know, since we're not really fixing a path and going there. That bear didn't even fight back. That's kind of sad. But the bears shit gold, so that tells us something about the bears. And they have hefty bones. Commonly used to make disposable weapons from large beasts. I want to get to that statue, but I don't want to go down there yet. Oh, there's also a site of grace there. I didn't know that. So we killed these 2 bears right here. And hidden by the cliff towards where that statue is more bears. But that's not what's interesting. It's what they're hanging out with. Yeah, these bears are pushovers until we meet their less friendly cousins. But hidden around their excrement are Trina lilies. So when we see Trina lilies, a symbol of Saint Trina, we should think of Saint Trina. We don't know who she is yet, but she has something to do with those lilies. And people interested in her are planting them, or maybe they pop up because she was there. Oh, there's spirits actually down there. Poison bloom. Oh, goodness. So those were those who live in death. We learned about them from the Holy Pot items. And it's interesting that our Erd Tree styled holy swords don't stop them from going back up. So there's a little bit of a difference between Golden Order and Erd Tree. We also have these fleshy things attacking us. They have bird feathers in them. They have rib cages, and they're still writhing. They're obviously alive. They have spikes in them, but it's made of dead parts. So is it sentient in some way? Let's see what it drops to find out. Thin beast bone. So it's beasts that are still writhing around. And then under here we have these jellyfish. So we don't actually know what these are yet. The game hasn't really told us yet. But I'll give you a hint. We'll talk about it just now. These are spirit jellyfish. And they usually appear at night or away from sunlight. Like these guys are hidden in the shade. And they're supposed to be, I think, representing the spirits of the dead. And we could see that there's a lot of dead bodies down here. We were attacked by a few that came back to life. So it's interesting that we can find a few down here. They're usually made to lure you to a place to go to... These are one of those statues, those gatekeepers leading us to crypts. See, it's leading us that way. And we can jump down these tombstones to get there. But there was a site of grace back here that we want to pick up. There's also wolves with an item, so... Tarnished golden sunflower, a large flower that blooms facing the Erd Tree. Though wilted and faded, it still retains holy essence. So, the flower that blooms facing the Erd Trees, found near minor Erd Trees, retain holy essence. So, the Erd Trees and the minor Erd Trees are what have that holy essence. I also picked up poison bloom. It kind of looks a little similar to the Erd leaf. It's got similar shape. So, these must be... So, the Erd leaf flower is fed by leaves that fell from the Erd tree in the days of antiquity. And this is a poison kind of Erd leaf flower. Yeah, it looks pretty similar. Flower that grows in toxic terrain, dripping with deep green poisonous liquid. So, that must also be an Erd leaf flower that made the poison bloom. Coming down towards this area, we can see that there's another site of grace coming up. We have our woods towards the southeast, which looks like larger bears roaming in them. We have a little minor Erd tree, and then we could see on the horizon kind of a crest in the cliff. Castles, something crazy going on up there. More minor Erd trees very far away. But I think we're going to rest here, and then we will explore the surrounding regions later. All right, you know the drill. let's do the thing.